What if I told you the conflict is not about the person the way you think it is? What if the argument you keep having is not proof that you married the wrong one, trusted the wrong friend, loved the wrong family member? What if it is a pattern wearing different faces, using different words, arriving on different days, but carrying the same spiritual signature because it knows one thing: if it can keep you reactive, it can keep you blind. You have felt it, haven't you? The same fight, just dressed in new clothes, the same emotional whiplash that makes you question your own memory. The same cycle where it escalates, breaks, and then comes the apology, and then the fragile peace, and then the quiet dread in your stomach before the next conversation. You can almost predict it. You can feel it in the air. You walk into the room and something in you braces, your shoulders tighten, your tone changes, your guard rises, and you hate that you become that version of yourself again. You tell yourself, "This time, I will stay calm." And then it happens so fast you don't even recognize the moment you were pulled into the loop. Listen to me. That loop is not random. The repetition is a clue. The predictability is evidence. The way it always produces the same fruit: confusion, defensiveness, control, silence, shame. This is how you know you are not merely dealing with a disagreement. You are dealing with an influence that wants to harvest a certain outcome from your life. And it is subtle enough to make you think the person is the enemy, because if you attack their humanity, you will never confront the pattern that keeps hijacking both of you. Your enemy is not their humanity. Your enemy is not their weakness, their tone, their imperfect love. Your enemy is what keeps reaching for the steering wheel the moment peace gets close. Because there are forces that do not fear your intelligence. They fear your discernment. They do not fear your words. They fear your clarity. And they will gladly let you win an argument if it means you lose your tenderness, lose your stability, lose your ability to hear me. I am not calling you to demonize someone I told you to love. I am calling you to stop confusing the person with the pattern. I am calling you to separate what I created from what is trying to attach itself. Because you can honor a human being and still resist an influence. You can keep your heart soft and your boundaries wise. You can stop throwing your whole relationship into the fire every time the same spirit of reaction comes knocking. And I am going to teach you how. I am going to show you how to recognize the signature, how to name the fruit, how to pause before you speak, how to love without losing discernment, so the next time the same fight tries to wear a different face, it will not find you available to repeat it. Now hear me closely, because this is the foundation that will keep your heart clean while your life gets clear. The person is not the pattern. The human being in front of you is not the spirit that keeps pulling the same lever. They are not the loop. They are not the harvest. They are not your enemy. They are an image bearer, formed with breath, carrying dignity, even when they are immature, even when they are defensive, even when they are wrong. And you must not confuse what I created with what is trying to use what I created. There is a holy separation I am asking you to practice. Not separation as abandonment, separation as discernment, separation as maturity. I am teaching you how to honor a person's humanity without partnering with what is destroying the relationship. Because some of you have been trying to fight darkness by wounding flesh. You have been swinging at the person, hoping the pattern will finally leave. But when you make the person the enemy, you hand the pattern your greatest weapon: contempt. You have read it, even if you have not lived it yet. Your struggle is not ultimately against flesh and blood. It is not merely a tone, a text message, a conversation at the wrong time. There are unseen forces that study your tenderness, exploit your fatigue, and take advantage of unhealed places in both of you. They do not need a perfect villain. They only need a predictable reaction. They only need you to label a human being as the threat, because then you stop discerning. Then you stop listening. Then you stop praying. And the moment you stop discerning, you start accusing. And the moment you start accusing, hope drains out of the room. Because when you mislabel the person as the enemy, you don't just argue, you prosecute. You gather evidence. You rehearse old failures. You speak in absolutes. You say, "You always," and "you never," and the sentence becomes a prison. And the other person, even if they were wrong, now cannot hear correction without hearing rejection. So they harden. You harden. The pattern smiles, because it is not trying to win a point, it is trying to break intimacy. It is trying to turn disagreement into disdain, offense into identity, a moment into a verdict. This is the tactic: get you to fight the person so you never confront the pattern, get you to bleed on the one you are called to love, so you feel justified while you are being led, get you to confuse confrontation with condemnation. But I am calling you higher. I am calling you to resist the influence without erasing the person, to say, I will not talk in circles, without saying, you are worthless, to say, I will not be manipulated, without saying, you are a monster, to say, I will not live in confusion, without throwing away the possibility of redemption. So let this be your first act of warfare. Speak to me about the pattern before you speak against the person. Hold their dignity steady in your heart, even while you refuse the loop. Love them as human. Resist the influence as spiritual. And you will feel the shift, because when you stop attacking flesh and start discerning fruit, the darkness loses its camouflage. Now listen, because this is where the enemy becomes most clever. He does not need you to be evil. He only needs you to be reactive. He does not need to convince you to hate the person. He only needs to rush you into a version of yourself that cannot hear me. Because reaction short-circuits wisdom. When you are triggered, you are easy to steer. When your nervous system is on fire, your discernment goes quiet. And if the pattern can control your reactions, it can control the direction of the relationship. This is why it always comes the same way. The tone that is just sharp enough to make you feel small. The timing that hits, the exact moment you are tired, hungry, overstimulated, already carrying the weight of the day. The familiar jab that sounds like an old wound being reopened, not a new sentence being spoken. The selective silence that makes you scramble and over-explain, trying to earn safety with words. The sudden crisis that forces urgency, so you skip prayer, skip clarity, skip the questions that would expose what is happening. Watch it. The pattern does not merely argue with you. It herds you. It pushes you into haste. It pushes you into defending. It pushes you into proving. It pushes you into chasing. And once you are chasing, you are no longer leading. And you have been asking the wrong first question. You have been saying, what did they do? And I am telling you to begin with, what is this producing in me? Because the fruit reveals the root. Pause long enough to name what rises in you when the loop begins. Is it fear like you must fix this now, or you will be abandoned? Is it shame like one mistake means you are unlovable? Is it rage like you must punish to feel powerful again? Is it control like you cannot rest until everything is certain? Is it despair like peace is impossible and nothing will ever change? Beloved, I am not condemning you for having a reaction. I am exposing what is trying to harvest you through it. Because that is the agenda, to collect fruit from your life. Not fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, but fruit of confusion, fruit of accusation, fruit of self-betrayal, fruit of collapse. The pattern returns because it has been getting paid. It has been fed by your instant replies, your late-night spirals, your sharp words you regret, your silent treatments that feel like protection but breed distance. So I am teaching you a holy interruption. Before you answer the text, before you match the tone, before you step into the old courtroom and start presenting evidence, stop and ask me, what is this trying to harvest from me right now? And when you can name the fruit, you can refuse to grow it. You do not break the loop by being faster with your arguments. You break the loop by being slower with your spirit. You pause, you breathe, you remember who you are. You remember that I am with you in the moment of heat, and you let discernment take the steering wheel back, because a relationship cannot go toward peace if your reactions are being driven by an unseen hand. Now, do not turn discernment into suspicion. Do not confuse spiritual sight with a restless mind that scans every sentence for danger. I do not train you to be paranoid. I train you to be clear. Paranoia is fear pretending to be wisdom. Discernment is peace carrying truth in its hands. One makes you tighten, the other makes you steady. One makes you hunt for enemies. The other helps you separate what is human from what is hijacking the human. So listen to me, and I will give you markers, not madness. A spiritual pattern announces itself first by repetition, not once, not twice. It returns with a familiar script. Different day, same ending. You keep arriving at the same emotional cliff, the same accusation, the same defensiveness, the same cold distance, and you cannot explain why it happened again, except that it always happens again. And with repetition comes escalation because patterns do not simply repeat, they intensify. What used to be a small misunderstanding becomes a blow-up. What used to be a hard conversation becomes a threat. What used to be a moment becomes a week of tension. That is how you know you are not just dealing with a topic, you are dealing with a loop. And here is another marker: confusion after the conversation. You walk away and you feel foggy. You replay it and you cannot track what was actually said. You feel guilty, but you cannot name what you did. You feel blamed, but the details keep slipping. Sometimes there is sudden amnesia about what was agreed. Promises evaporate. Boundaries are forgotten. The same issue returns, as if the last talk never happened. And you begin to doubt your own memory, your own tone, your own sanity. Beloved, when truth is present, it may be painful, but it is not fog. When I am leading, conviction is clear, not chaotic. Do you see the difference? Normal disagreement can be processed. It can be owned. It can be repaired. Two imperfect people can tell the truth, take responsibility, humble themselves, and move forward even if it takes time. But pattern warfare keeps you circling the same mountain, drained and disoriented, always starting over at the same starting line. There is tension, then release, then fragile peace, then the quiet dread, then tension again. That cycle is not maturity. That cycle is maintenance. Something is trying to keep you managing turmoil instead of building a life. So I give you a simple test, and it will sober you. Ask, where is this taking us? Does this conversation, this dynamic, this always happens moment lead toward truth, humility, responsibility, and peace? Or does it lead toward fog, pride, blame, and chaos? Does it make you more honest, more tender, more grounded? Or does it make you smaller, shakier, more frantic to prove yourself? The fruit will tell you what the root is courting. And when you can name the fruit, you stop calling it normal. You stop feeding it with your reactions. You become the one who sees. And when you see, you are no longer easily hurted. I taught you to look at fruit because fruit reveals roots. You have been staring at the surface tone, timing, wording, while something deeper has been reaching beneath the soil of your relationship. And I am not telling you this to make you afraid of shadows. I am telling you this so you stop calling a harvest just a season, because patterns persist when they are being rewarded, and what rewards them is not your suffering for its own sake, it is the fruit they can pull out of you. Watch what the loop is always trying to produce. Not resolution, not understanding, not humility. It is trying to grow fear in you, the feeling that if you speak truth, you will be left. It is trying to grow shame, the feeling that the conflict exists because you are too much, too sensitive, too broken, too difficult to love. It is trying to grow isolation, the slow decision to stop sharing, stop reaching, stop trusting anyone with what is happening. It is trying to grow bitterness, the quiet poison that feels like strength because it keeps you from being disappointed again. It is trying to grow distrust, so even when love is offered, you question motives and brace for betrayal. And yes, beloved, sometimes it aims for the darkest fruit of all, self-hatred, where you leave every conversation not merely frustrated with them, but disgusted with yourself. And when those fruits begin to ripen, you start protecting yourself with walls or weapons instead of wisdom. Some of you build walls. You go quiet. You become unavailable. You call it peace, but it is numbness wearing holy language. Others pick up weapons. You sharpen words. You keep receipts. You learn how to cut first so you don't have to bleed later. And the tragedy is this. You think you are defending your heart, but you are actually training your heart to live in constant threat. Then even gentle love feels like a trap because you have been conditioned to expect pain. Listen to me. The unseen agenda is always to move you away from my nature. I am not the author of confusion. I do not lead you into fog. I do not cultivate suspicion and call it discernment. I do not produce contempt and call it wisdom. So when the pattern keeps yielding the same harvest, you must stop asking only, why are they like this? And begin asking, what is this trying to make me become? And here is the redemptive turn I want you to see, because I do not expose you to torment without offering you a door. The pattern is revealing two things at once, what needs healing in you and what needs boundaries around you. It is showing you where you still abandon yourself to keep connection. It is showing you where you still confuse intensity with intimacy. It is showing you where you still believe love must cost you your dignity. And it is also showing you what you can no longer tolerate, what you can no longer negotiate with, what you must name clearly if peace is going to live in your home. So do not just mourn the repetition, learn from it. Do not just curse the loop, discern its appetite. Because when you understand what it is trying to harvest, you can starve it without hating the human being. You can love the person and refuse the fruit. You can keep your heart tender and your life guarded. And this is how the cycle breaks. Not when you finally say the perfect sentence, but when you finally stop offering your soul as a field for the same crop. Now I will make it more practical for you, because I do not reveal what is unseen just to make you feel overwhelmed. I reveal it so you can name it, because when you cannot name it, you will personalize it. You will assume it is simply who they are, or who you are, and you will start building your identity around conflict. But there are signatures, common spirits that ride common loops, and when you see the signature, you stop being impressed by the disguise. The first is chaos. This is the pattern that always needs an emergency to feel alive. It waits until the last minute. It interrupts rest. It sabotages calm. When peace begins to settle, it manufactures a crisis, an argument right before bed, a blow-up right before an important day, a problem that could have been handled simply but is turned into drama, and you start living like you cannot exhale. Beloved, I am not threatened by quiet. I am the God of order. But chaos hates steady love, because steady love exposes it as unnecessary. So it calls peace boring and instability passion, and it keeps you addicted to adrenaline instead of anchored in truth. The second is fear. Fear does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It makes love feel like a negotiation for safety. It uses intimidation, withdrawal, the threat of abandonment, the feeling that if you say the wrong thing, you will pay for it. You become careful, not because you are wise, but because you are scared. You monitor your tone. You shrink your needs. You apologize for existing. And I tell you, I did not create covenant so you could live in dread. Any pattern that trains you to trade honesty for safety is not love. It is bondage-wearing relationship language. The third is pride. Pride cannot apologize because apology feels like death to it. Pride turns correction into an attack and truth into a contest. It is constantly defensive, constantly explaining, constantly positioning itself as the one who is more spiritual, more logical, more mature, anything but accountable. And do you see the fruit? Repair becomes impossible, because humility is the doorway to peace, and pride locks the door from the inside while demanding intimacy from the outside. The fourth is control and manipulation. This spirit does not ask, it manages, it moves goalposts, it uses guilt like a rope, it withholds affection to gain compliance. It gives you a silent treatment that feels like punishment, then returns with selective sweetness so you doubt your own perception. Connection becomes a lever, love becomes a reward, and I did not teach you to earn tenderness by abandoning your boundaries. Where my spirit is, there is freedom, not confusion, not coercion, not the constant feeling that you must perform to keep the relationship stable. And the fifth is accusation and condemnation. This is when the conflict stops being about what happened and becomes an assault on who you are. You always, you never. Labels. Character assassination. A spirit that wants you to wear shame like a name tag, so you stop believing you can change, and you stop believing you deserve peace. It does not correct. It curses. It does not confront an issue. It attacks identity. And when identity is attacked, you either collapse or counterattack, both of which feed the loop. Listen to me. These signatures differ, but they share one appetite. They are all after the same treasure, your peace, your truth, your dignity. They want you to forget that you are mine. They want you to stop discerning and start reacting. So I am giving you language, so you can look at the pattern and say, I see you, without spitting venom at the human being. Because the moment you can name the spirit behind the loop, you can stop feeding it with your life. Now listen to me, because this is the mirror moment that humbles the proud and heals the sincere. The pattern is not only outside you. It does not only press against the relationship from the other person's side. Sometimes it reaches into you and touches the place that still aches, the place that still fears, the place that still believes it must earn love by losing itself. And when that wound lights up, you think you are reacting to what is happening now, but often you are answering an old pain that has been waiting for a familiar knock. This is why the same conflict feels bigger than the moment deserves. It is not merely an argument about tone or time or a decision. It is your craving to be chosen being poked again. It is your fear of rejection being awakened again. It is your need to be right because you were once unheard. once dismissed, once made to feel crazy being summoned again. It is your need to fix, to rescue, to manage the emotions in the room. Because somewhere in your history, love was conditional on your performance. It is your fear of being alone, rising like a wave, so you will accept confusion just to avoid emptiness. And the pattern knows this about you. It studies your soft places. It does not need to invent new weapons. It only needs to reuse old injuries. Do you see what I am saying? Discernment is not only pointing outward and naming their pride, their control, their accusation. Discernment is also bowing inward and saying, Lord, show me what in me is still available to this. Because some of you have been praying for the relationship to change while refusing to let me mature the part of you that keeps taking the bait. And this is not condemnation. This is mercy. This is me putting my hand on the bruise, not to shame you for flinching, but to heal you so you stop bleeding on people you love. Even the psychologist noticed the doorway. Jung spoke of the shadow, those disowned parts of you that live in the dark, not because they are evil, but because they were never tended with truth. A trigger is often a door into that shadow, a sudden descent into the younger you who learned survival before you learned peace. So when your chest tightens, when your voice rises, when your mind starts collecting evidence like a courtroom, I am not only asking, what are they doing? I am asking, what is this revealing? Because the reaction is information. The flare-up is a map. The pain is speaking a language. And I need you to hear me clearly. Your trigger is not proof you are broken. Your trigger is a place I am inviting you to mature. The fact that you feel it does not mean you are failing. It means you are human, and you are being sanctified in real time. You do not have to hate yourself for having a wound, but you do have to stop letting that wound drive the conversation. You do not have to pretend you are unaffected, but you do have to let me lead you into wholeness, so you can love without losing yourself, speak truth without panic, and set boundaries without guilt. So when the loop begins again, do not only look at the other person and say, there it is. Also look at your own heart and ask, what is this trying to pull me back into? Is it the orphan fear that says, if I'm not perfect, I will be left? Is it the rescuer that says, if I fix them, I will be safe? Is it the fighter that says, if I win, I will finally be seen? Beloved, I can heal the part of you that keeps signing the same contract with the same pain. And when that part is healed, the pattern loses its hook. The loop cannot close because you are no longer the same person it used to use. Beloved, now that you see how the hook works, I must change your definition of victory. Because some of you have been calling it winning when you prove your point, when you land the perfect sentence, when you finally make them admit it, when you gather enough evidence that your pain is undeniable. But I tell you, you can win the argument and still lose your peace. You can be correct and still be captive. You can get the apology and still be locked into the same cycle that will return next week wearing a different tone. Victory is not domination. Victory is interruption. Victory is breaking the loop. Hear me, the goal in conflict is not to feel superior. It is not to extract validation. It is not to punish someone for what they triggered in you. The goal is clarity, truth, and peace. Because peace is not the absence of hard conversations. Peace is the presence of my order inside them. And when you protect peace, you protect the part of you that can hear me. You protect the dignity of the other person. You protect the future from being written by a moment of heat. So when the pattern tries to drag you into that familiar courtroom, when your chest tightens and your mind starts building a case, do not rush to speak like a lawyer. Slow down and speak like a steward. And I will give you words that do not feed the spirit of reaction. Say it plainly, without venom, without performance. I'm not fighting you, I'm naming the pattern. Let's slow down and return to truth. Say, I want to understand, but I won't do this in raised voices. Say, I'm willing to talk, but not in circles. Say, I hear you, and I'm staying with truth, not accusations. Those sentences are not weakness. They are warfare. Because the pattern has a diet. It feeds on urgency. It feeds on volume. It feeds on interruption, sarcasm, contempt, and that intoxicating need to be right now. It feeds on your fast replies and your trembling fingers and your willingness to abandon your boundaries just to make the tension stop. So, when you de-escalate, you are not being passive. You are starving what has been feeding on your reactions. You are refusing to offer your nervous system as an altar. You are refusing to let confusion be the atmosphere of your home. And this will unsettle what has grown comfortable in chaos. It will provoke the pattern at first, because it is used to controlling the direction by controlling your temperature. But stay with me. Breathe. Lower your voice. Take a pause that feels like death to your pride and like freedom to your spirit. You do not have to match their intensity to be strong. You do not have to win the moment to protect the relationship. You protect the covenant of peace by refusing the fuel. So the next time it begins, remember, you are not trying to conquer a person. You are trying to close a door. And when you choose calm, when you choose clarity, when you choose boundaries over bait, the loop cannot complete itself because it cannot feed. And what cannot feed cannot stay. Now let this be the midpoint turning for you, because some of you have been trying to correct the relationship while you are still internally shaking. You have been trying to confront while your spirit is not yet aligned. You have been trying to explain while you are still bleeding. And you keep wondering why the same conversation becomes the same fire. I tell you, reorder the sequence. Prayer before confrontation. Alignment before explanation. Peace before processing. Because if you enter the room in reaction, you have already agreed to the pattern's rules. And the pattern does not need your permission to speak through you, it only needs you to skip me. So, when you feel that familiar surge, when your chest tightens, when your mind starts writing the opening statement, when you can feel the old script sliding into your mouth, stop, not as avoidance, as authority. Pause long enough to return to me, and pray this, even if it is silent, even if it is only a whisper inside your ribs. God, show me what's real, what's mine, what's theirs, and what's spiritual. Show me what is true, not what is loud. Show me what requires repentance in me, not just reaction from me. Show me what needs compassion and what needs a boundary. Show me the difference between a human weakness and an unseen influence trying to harvest chaos. Because you cannot cast out chaos while becoming chaotic. You cannot confront manipulation while abandoning your own clarity. You cannot rebuke confusion while speaking from confusion. Peace is not your reward at the end of the conversation. Beloved, peace is your position at the beginning of it. And when you begin with me, you begin with authority, not the authority of volume, not the authority of having the perfect argument, the authority of a steady spirit that refuses to be herded, the authority of someone who is not available for the loop. And you will feel the shift. Your tone will change. Your pace will change. Your words will be fewer, cleaner, truer. You will stop over-explaining to earn safety. You will stop defending yourself like a prisoner. You will speak like a son, like a daughter, someone who belongs to me, someone who does not have to panic to be heard. If you are choosing that kind of peace, if you are ready to learn discernment that protects love without partnering with darkness, then stay with me here. Subscribe for these teachings on relationship patterns and spiritual clarity. And like this, if you are making a decision today to stop reacting and start discerning, and I want you to seal it with your own mouth, comment, I discern the pattern, and I choose peace and truth. Because when you declare it before the next conversation, you are already stepping out of the old cycle and into a new order. Now listen, because this is where many of my beloved misunderstand me and call it spirituality. You think forgiveness means you must reopen the door to the same damage. You think love means unlimited access. You think being like Christ means absorbing what I never assigned you to carry. But I am telling you plainly, forgiveness is not permission, and love is not access. You can release them from your revenge and still refuse their disorder. You can bless them and still require honor. You can pray for them and still say, not like this. Some of you have been calling boundaries bitterness because you were trained to confuse protection with punishment. But a boundary is not revenge. A boundary is wisdom. A boundary is not you trying to make them pay. It is you refusing to pay with your peace. It is you refusing to enable what keeps harming you, and then calling it patience. Beloved, I am not asking you to endure cycles that deform your soul. I am not asking you to tolerate disrespect so you can prove you are humble. Humility is not self-erasure. Love is not self-betrayal. Hear me. Punishment says, I will hurt you back. Protection says, I will not be harmed again in the same way. Punishment tries to control them. Protection governs you. Punishment is fueled by contempt. Protection is fueled by clarity, and clarity is holy. because it makes room for truth to live. A boundary is not a wall against a person. It is a door that requires honor to enter. If honor will not come, access does not come. That is not hate. That is order. So let it get practical, because some of you only need language. When the temperature rises, you are allowed to call a timeout, not a storm out, not a silent treatment. A timeout with a return. We are not continuing this while we are escalated. We will talk in an hour. We will talk tomorrow. Some of you need topic limits. We are not bringing up the past as a weapon in this conversation. Some of you need a holy rule. No late-night fights, because exhaustion is a doorway for cruelty. Some of you need a standard. No yelling, no name-calling, no threats of leaving, no ultimatums used like knives. And yes, beloved, some of you need consequences spoken without trembling. If you threaten me again, I will end the conversation. If you raise your voice, I will leave the room. If you keep violating this boundary, we will not meet alone. Not because you are cold, because you are awake. And when guilt rises in you when you hear that old lie that says, if I set a boundary, I'm unloving, return to me. I am not asking you to absorb what I never assigned you to carry. I did not anoint you to be a punching bag. I did not call you to be peace's caretaker while someone else refuses responsibility. I am teaching you to love without partnering with chaos. Because when you require honor, you do not destroy love. You protect the only environment where love can actually grow. Now, because you are awake, I will give you 3 questions you can carry into the heat of the moment like oil in your lamp, not for later, not for the debrief, after you have already said what you regret. For real time, for the second your body starts to tense and your mind starts to sprint, and you feel that familiar pull to answer fast so you can feel safe again. Beloved, discernment is not a theory, it is a pause that saves you. The first question is this: what is the immediate fruit this conversation is producing in you, peace or pressure? Do you feel settled inside, even if the topic is hard? Or do you feel rushed, cornered, tightened, compelled to perform, compelled to fix, compelled to defend? Pressure is not always proof that you are wrong. Pressure is often proof that something is trying to hurry you out of wisdom. I do not drive you with panic. I lead you with peace. So name the fruit. This is pressure. This is agitation. This is fear. And when you name it, you stop mistaking it for love. The second question: is this moving toward truth and responsibility, or toward blame and confusion? Listen closely. Truth can be sharp, but it is clean. Responsibility can be uncomfortable, but it is clarifying. But blame is fog. Confusion is a cage. If the conversation keeps sliding into you always, you never, if it keeps rewriting what happened, if it keeps dodging ownership and turning everything back on you, you are not moving toward repair. You are being recruited into a courtroom where no one is allowed to be healed. Ask yourself, are we naming what happened and what we will do differently, or are we collecting villains? Because when responsibility is present, the future opens. When blame is ruling, the loop tightens. The third question is the one that exposes the pattern script. If I respond impulsively, what loop will repeat what happens every time, not what might happen in your imagination? What happens every time? You raise your voice, they raise theirs. You over-explain, they twist your words. You apologize to end the tension, and nothing changes. You chase, they withdraw. You withdraw, they punish. Beloved, the pattern has a predictable ending, and I am teaching you to recognize the ending before you start the scene. So here is your warfare. Pause, breathe, let silence be your shield. Delay your response until your spirit is steady. Say it without drama and without guilt. I will respond when I can respond in peace. Say, I need a moment. Say, we will continue when we can speak with honor. This is not avoidance, this is authority. Because the moment you refuse to answer from pressure, refuse to speak from confusion, refuse to play your role in the familiar loop, the pattern is exposed, and what is exposed begins to lose its power. Now hear me, because some of you keep asking the question beneath the question, is this emotional or is this spiritual? And you ask it because you are tired of feeling foolish. You are tired of naming trauma when you should be naming tactics. You are tired of rebuking demons when you should be learning communication. You are tired of blaming yourself for what is not yours, and blaming them for what is deeper than their personality. So, I will answer you with clarity that costs you comfort. Sometimes it is emotional, sometimes it is spiritual, and many times, beloved, it is both. When it is emotional, it often looks plain. It looks like immaturity that never learned repair. It looks like stress that shortens patience and makes small things feel large. It looks like miscommunication, two nervous systems talking past each other, each one trying to be safe. It looks like attachment wounds chasing, withdrawing, pleasing, exploding, because the heart learned love as survival. And in those places, you do not need a dramatic enemy. You need skill. You need time. You need accountability. You need counsel. You need therapy, boundaries, and the humble work of learning how to name feelings without weaponizing them, how to listen without preparing a defense, how to apologize without collapsing into shame. Wisdom is not unspiritual. Maturity is not a lack of faith. I use tools, and I honor process. But when it is spiritual, it carries a different signature. It is not merely a hard conversation, it is a fog that descends. It is not merely disagreement, it is irrational escalation that feels like a force hijacking the room. It is accusation that loops, condemnation that stains identity, confusion that rewrites reality until you doubt your own memory. It is peace being stolen right after breakthrough, right after you prayed, right after you set a boundary, right after you decided to change. Suddenly, the same old fire tries to start again. That is not just personality, that is an agenda. And in those moments, you do not only need better sentences, you need prayer, you need truth exposed. You need authority. You need to close doors you have left open through fear, through compromise, through silence, that tolerates what I never called love. And when it is both, this is the part that will unsettle you. The spirit rides the unhealed place. The wound becomes the handle. Trauma becomes the doorway. The pattern does not create your pain from nothing. It touches what is already tender, and then it magnifies it until you react like the younger you again. That is why you can be growing and still be triggered. That is why you can love them and still feel like you are disappearing. That is why you can pray and still need healing. Because deliverance without maturity leaves you vulnerable, and therapy without discernment leaves you exhausted. Do not choose one to avoid the other. So I am calling you into a balanced obedience. Pursue healing tools and spiritual covering together. Learn the skills, do the inner work, keep your appointments, tell the truth about your history, and also pray before you speak. Bless your home. Declare peace. Refuse accusation. Set boundaries that honor me, because many conflicts are both emotional and spiritual, and the solution is both wisdom and warfare. When you stop picking sides and you start walking with me in both, the loop breaks not by denial, but by wholeness. Some of you keep wondering why your greatest warfare is not in your workplace, not in your finances, not even in your private habits anymore, but in the place you thought would be safest, your closest bonds, your love life, your friendships, your family, the conversations that should feel like home, but somehow become a battlefield. And you have asked me in the dark, why does it always get hardest right here? Listen to me, because when I mark a life with purpose, the enemy does not begin by attacking your gifts. He begins by attacking your agreements. He aims for the relationships that multiply you, because unity is a force. Do you understand what agreement does? When two people walk in truth, peace, and honor, they become more than companionship. They become covering. They become clarity. They become momentum. They become a mirror that reflects identity back to you when you forget who you are. So the strategy is old. Divide, so you cannot build. Distract, so you cannot hear. Deplete, so you cannot endure. Isolate, so you cannot be strengthened. If he can keep you in perpetual relational emergency, always processing, always recovering, always explaining, always defending, then he has stolen your hours without ever having to steal your calling outright. That is why the same fight keeps wearing different faces. That is why misunderstanding repeats like a song you did not choose. That is why as soon as you step into a new level of obedience, tension appears in the very place you were hoping would celebrate you. It is not because you are cursed. It is because you are carried. It is because you are dangerous to darkness when you are at peace. The intensity is not proof that you are broken beyond repair. It may be proof that you are called to carry something that requires stability, discernment, and a clean heart. And I am not flattering you. I am clarifying you. because some of you have been shrinking under labels that were never mine. Too sensitive, too intense, too much. But what if your sensitivity is not weakness? What if it is early warning? What if the discomfort you feel is discernment trying to speak before you explain it away? What if the way your spirit tightens is not drama, but wisdom knocking on your ribs, begging you to pause? Beloved, you are not becoming paranoid. You are becoming precise. You are learning the difference between a human being having a hard day and a pattern trying to harvest confusion from your home. So lift your head. Stop apologizing for needing peace. Stop calling it love when you are being trained to tolerate disorder. You are not too sensitive because you notice the shift in the room. You are not too much because you refuse to be spoken to in accusation. You are not unstable because you need clarity. You are waking up, and I will tell you the truth that will steady you. If you are called, your relationships will be contested because unity and peace multiply your strength. So do not despise the battle. Discern it. Do not demonize the person. Separate the pattern and choose dignity. You will not be recruited into confusion again because you are mine, and peace is the atmosphere I am teaching you to live in. Now, I will show you how to break it, not with a louder voice, not with a smarter argument, not with another paragraph of explaining what you meant, because patterns do not die when you become more eloquent. Patterns die when you interrupt the sequence consistently, when you stop giving them predictable access to your nervous system, your mouth, your time, your home. Step 1 is private, and it is humbling, and it is powerful. Name the pattern where no one can argue with you on paper. Write it down like a map. Trigger, then reaction, then outcome. When they dismiss me, I over-explain. When they get cold, I chase. When they accuse, I defend until I'm shaking. And then the outcome, nothing resolves. I lose peace. We spiral. I apologize for things I didn't do. I go to bed with confusion. Beloved, do not spiritualize what you refuse to document. When you write it, you can see it. When you see it, you can stop calling it random. Step 2. Identify the fruit, and I will expose the lie beneath it. What does this pattern produce every time? Fear, pride, control, accusation, chaos. Does it make you feel rushed, small, guilty without clarity? Does it make you feel like you must perform to be safe? And under that fruit is a sentence you have been living under. If I don't fix this now, I will be abandoned. If I'm not understood, I am not loved. If I don't submit, I will be punished. Name the lie, because you cannot break what you keep calling just how it is. Step 3. Choose a different response before you are emotional. Delay. Slow the pace. Ask one clarifying question instead of delivering a speech. End the conversation respectfully instead of feeding escalation. Insist on calm like it is holy, because it is. Say, I want to talk, but not like this. Say, I'm going to take 10 minutes and return. Say, help me understand what you mean by that. When you change your response, you change the script, and the pattern panics because it cannot predict you anymore. Step 4. Speak truth out loud, not as a threat, as a boundary of light. We will not do accusation. We will not do threats. We will return to honor. I will not be yelled at. I will not be spoken to in contempt. And if they try to drag you back into the familiar fog, you do not argue with the fog. You restate the truth, and you keep your posture. Step 5 is where freedom is proved. Follow through. Not once, not twice, consistently, because patterns live on inconsistency. They survive on the one night you were tired, the one moment you folded, the one time you traded peace for quick relief. But when you are steady, when you leave the room every time the boundary is violated, when you return only when honor returns, the loop cannot close. And what cannot close, cannot continue. I am teaching you to be so consistent that darkness gets bored because there is nothing left to harvest. And now I will touch the question you have been avoiding, not because you are weak, but because you are tender. What if they never change? What if you do everything I have shown you? Pray first, discern the fruit, refuse the loop, set the boundary, follow through, and they still choose the same contempt, the same manipulation, the same addiction to chaos. Beloved, I know the grief of that question. Because you can love someone with your whole heart and still face the reality that they may not choose healing. You can see their potential and still live with their patterns. You can intercede for them and still be harmed by what they refuse to confront. Listen to me. There is a sobering principle in the spirit. You cannot cast out a pattern that someone keeps inviting back in. You can close your door. You can cleanse your atmosphere. You can refuse agreement. But you cannot do repentance for another human being. You cannot become so holy that their disorder becomes harmless. And you are not required to keep bleeding just to prove you are faithful. Some of you have been calling it love when it is actually denial, and calling it patience when it is actually fear. So here is the path of peace without partnership with darkness. Limit access, not as revenge, as wisdom. Access is earned with honor. If they cannot speak without accusation, you do not stay in the conversation. If they cannot handle truth without punishment, you do not keep handing them your throat. If they keep crossing the same line, you stop offering the same opportunity for harm. Some of you must seek counsel, not because you are dramatic, but because you need covering. Bring it into the light with wise, trusted voices. Some of you must involve community support, accountability, leaders, professionals, because isolation is where patterns grow bold. And hear me clearly. Protect the children. Protect your mind. Protect your body. Protect your sleep. Protect your sanity. I do not call you to keep the peace by staying unsafe. Peace is not pretending. Peace is order. Peace is truth that has consequences. If you are in danger, you prioritize safety, and you do it without shame, because I am not in the business of sacrificing you on an altar of someone else's refusal. But do not let this hard truth make you cruel. Do not demonize the human being. Separate the person from the influence, even as you separate your life from the harm. Pray for deliverance. Pray for repentance. Pray that their eyes would open. And also accept this. You are responsible for obedience and boundaries, not for forcing another person's transformation. You can love them and still say, "Not like this." You can bless them and still close the door. You can hope for change and still live in truth today. Because I am not only redeeming them, beloved, I am preserving you, and I will not ask you to call bondage love ever again. Now come closer, because I am not leaving you with strategy alone. I am not giving you boundaries without breath. I am not sending you back into the next conversation with only willpower. You need sight, clean sight, the kind of sight that can hold compassion for the person and clarity about the pattern at the same time. So pray with me now, slowly, because discernment is not something you grind your teeth to produce. Discernment is a gift I give when you ask, so you can love people without partnering with darkness. Father, in the name of Jesus, I quiet the part of me that wants to rush. I lay down the need to win. I lay down the urge to defend myself like a prisoner, and I ask you for clean eyes. Let me see the human being as you see them, made, marked, complex, not disposable. Put your compassion in me where bitterness has tried to settle, and at the same time, Lord, let me see the influence for what it is. Let me recognize the script, the loop, the fruit. Let me discern what is emotional, what is spiritual, and what is both, without paranoia, without denial, without confusion. And now, Lord, I renounce every agreement I have made with the pattern. I renounce fear that makes me shrink. I renounce accusation that makes me cruel. I renounce confusion that makes me doubt my own memory. I renounce control that makes me manipulate back. I renounce retaliation that makes me answer darkness with darkness. I renounce hopelessness that tells me nothing will ever change, so I might as well surrender my dignity. Forgive me for every time I called chaos normal, every time I called self-betrayal peace, every time I stayed in what you never asked me to carry. Give me wisdom to respond instead of react. Put a guard over my mouth and steadiness in my tone. Teach my body to pause when the old surge rises. Give me the courage to set boundaries without hatred, consequences without cruelty, truth without contempt. Let my words be few and clean. Let my no be holy. Let my yes be safe. When I must end a conversation, let me do it without shame. When I must speak, let me speak as one who belongs to you, not as one begging to be chosen. And I invite your peace now into my mind, into my home, into my sleep, into the spaces where tension has lived. Cover my conversations with your timing. Arrange the moment. Arrange the atmosphere. If it is not time, restrain me. If it is time, strengthen me. Protect me from ambush and from late-night warfare. Let honor be the requirement. Let clarity be the language. Let truth lead, not triggers. And I declare that this pattern will not harvest me again. I will love people, but I will not partner with darkness. I will forgive, but I will not reopen doors to disorder. I receive discernment, I receive wisdom, and I receive peace because you are preserving me, and you are teaching me to live in the light. Amen. Now I will put words in your mouth before the heat rises, because many of you lose the battle before it begins. Not because you are weak, but because you enter the conversation unguarded, and the old script is waiting for you like a familiar song. So, I will give you declarations, clean, simple, and strong, so your spirit has something to stand on when your emotions start to shake. Your next conversation changes when you decide in advance that peace and truth will lead. Repeat this aloud and let it settle into your bones. Peace will govern my mouth. I will not speak from panic. I will not speak from the need to be chosen. I will not speak from the tremble of old wounds. I will pause, and I will breathe, and I will answer as one who belongs to me. Wisdom will govern my timing. I will not be rushed into a response. I will not be pulled into the late-night spiral. I will not process under exhaustion. I will not argue at midnight to prove I care. The atmosphere of my home is not chaos. The hour of accusation is not my appointment. Truth will govern my boundaries. My no will be holy. My yes will be safe. My words will be few and clean. I will not negotiate my dignity. And now declare the end of the loop, because some cycles have survived only because you kept feeding them access. No more chaos-fueled midnight arguments. No more accusation as a language in this house. No more threats dressed as honesty. No more rewriting reality until I doubt what I saw and what I heard. No more fear-led silence where you swallow truth to avoid a reaction. I will not disappear to keep a false peace. I will not over-explain to earn basic respect. I will not apologize for boundaries I needed to survive. Declare your identity, because the pattern has tried to make you feel like a hostage. You are not a hostage to someone else's mood. You are not called to absorb spiritual pressure. You are not responsible for managing another person's storms with your nervous system. You are mine. You are permitted to be calm. You are permitted to be clear. You are permitted to end a conversation when honor leaves it. You are permitted to require repair, not just temporary relief. And here is the sentence that will break many of you free, if you will hold it in the moment you're tempted to attack the human being. I will not fight the person. I will resist the pattern. I will not demonize a soul. I will expose the fruit. I will love without partnering with darkness. I will speak truth without becoming cruel. I will listen without surrendering my discernment. And when the old script tries to recruit me into the familiar role, I will step back and say, not today, not like this. Peace will lead, truth will lead, and I will not be harvested again. Now receive this as the seal over everything I have spoken to you. The person is not your enemy, but the pattern has been hunting your peace. And you have felt it, the same fight wearing different faces, the same confusion wearing different words, the same exhaustion returning like a season that would not end. But I have not been confusing you. I have been training you. I have been teaching you the holy separation, to love a human being without bowing to what corrupts the conversation, to keep compassion in your chest while you close the door to disorder. You have learned to read the fruit. You have learned that what produces pressure, accusation, fog, control, and shame is not the language of my spirit. You have learned to pause before you react, to pray before you speak, to resist the script without humiliating the soul. You have learned that boundaries are not bitterness, they are wisdom made visible. And this is how the loop breaks, not when you finally say the perfect sentence, but when you stop giving the pattern the same access to your nervous system, your mouth, your midnight, your home. So now I bless you. I bless your inner world with steadiness. I bless your mind with clean sight and unshaken memory. I bless your emotions with gentleness that does not leak into self-betrayal. I bless your voice with clarity without cruelty. I bless your hands with the strength to follow through. I bless your relationships with truth that can be named and repair that can be completed. I bless your home with an atmosphere that does not reward chaos. Let peace become the new pattern. Let honor become normal again. Let conversations be slow enough for wisdom to stay present. Let manipulation starve where you no longer feed it attention. Let accusation die at the threshold because you refuse agreement with it. And I bless you with the courage to love without partnering with darkness. Some of you will watch me rebuild what you thought was doomed, not by forcing another person to change overnight, but by changing what you will tolerate, changing how you will respond, changing what you will invite into your space. A new pattern will form around peace because you are consistent, because you are awake, because you are mine. Now do not keep this alone. If you know someone trapped in the same recurring conflict, someone always explaining, always defending, always exhausted, send this to them. Be the interruption in their loop. And if you want more teaching that will keep sharpening your discernment, healing that is practical, clarity that is spiritual, wisdom for relationships, subscribe and stay with me. And before you go, plant your declaration in the comments like a stake in the ground. Comment, I discern the spirit behind the pattern, and I choose peace, truth, and wise boundaries. And as you speak it, you will feel it. The old script is losing you. The loop is breaking, and I am building something cleaner in its place.